Hello everybody, this is Abioyo, and we are going to journey into a realm of roguelike dungeon crawlers. What that means is I'm going to be playing games that exist with randomly generated dungeons. So we're going to run through the same game, basically over and over and over again. But every time we do it, we're going to have randomly generated rooms, randomly generated benefits, and so every time we make what's called an escape attempt in this game, it's going to be a completely different experience, thus making way for near endless replayability. And I'm starting this journey with what I think has quickly become the gold standard in this genre, Hades by Supergiant. Supergiant are the people responsible for Bastion, and Hades is a, like I said, roguelike dungeon crawler set in the realm of Greek mythology. I'm not going to delve too much into the story because it's going to get revealed as we play, but what we are going to do is start a fresh file, and we're going to attempt to record ourselves going all the way from the beginning, all the way to the end. So here we go.
Few tales are told of Hades, whose very name inspires fear and penitence, reminding us of the inevitable fate which we all share. I, however, mean to tell you such a tale. Listen carefully.
Goodbye, Father.
So here we start our first escape attempt in Tartarus. Now before I go too deep,
With this place.
I want to explain that I'm playing on PlayStation, and so some of the controls are you can dash around with the X button, you attack with the square button, got my sword here,
Disappear.
you can do a 3-hit combo. Every weapon also has a special that is triangle. In my case it's like an AoE ground pound. And you also have on the bottom left corner my health bar, which is 50, and what's called bloodstone, which I have one of, which fuels my cast. And that's the circle button, which is like a magic projectile that shoots forward and then turns into the bloodstone after it hits whatever surface it hits. And I cannot cast until I pick it back up. Also, if that cast lands in somebody, the bloodstone lodges inside of them until either about 10 seconds passed, or I kill the enemy that the bloodstone is lodged in. Until either of those happen, I cannot pick up the bloodstone again. And R1 is to interact with things. So, we're gonna go to the first room of my first escape attempt. Here we go. And that image right there is the reward, which I will get into later.
I'm leaving. Try and stop me.
Something I forgot to mention is if you attack while dashing, you can do a dash strike, like that. Another thing is you can destroy these columns to do extra damage to the people near them,
You're nothing.
like that. Some enemies shoot projectiles. You also may have noticed right there, this particular weapon, the third strike of my combo knocks the enemy back. And if you're paying real close attention, you might have noticed the words like crushed and wall smash. When I attack this pillar with people around, it crushes them. When I knock somebody back into a wall, it wall smashes them for extra damage. So here we go, we're gonna talk to this person.
It's got to be her. Then here goes nothing. In the name of Hades, Olympus, I accept this message.
Hail, noble cousin. Now, let's get you from that miserable place. I'll see that all of us upon Olympus do our part, beginning here with me.
So if you don't know anything about Greek mythology, this is Athena, the goddess of wisdom, and also of war and tactics. Not so much war, there's another god for that, but she is often represented with a shield and an owl, hence the shield and owl. And the way this whole game works, as I mentioned at the beginning, every escape attempt we're going to have random benefits. Well, these are the benefits, known as boons. We've got boons of Athena. You always get a choice of 3 random ones out of like probably close to 20. Every person has close to 20 boons, and you get 3 picked at random, and you get to decide one of them. So Athena is all about deflection, which is exactly what it sounds like. It turns the foe's attacks back against them. So what I can do here is I can either increase my attack damage by 40% and it can deflect, excuse me. I can change my cast so that it's a much slower projectile, but it can deflect the whole time, damages foes in a small area, and deals a lot more damage. Or I can make it so that every time I dash, it deflects and deals slight damage wherever I go. So I personally am a very melee-centric player, so I'm not going to pick Phalanx Shot. But the question is, do I want Divine Strike or Divine Dash? In the beginning here, you only have 1 dash, which is going to change. That makes Divine Dash a little worse. So for this first run, by the way, for this first escape attempt, if you're playing this on your own, do not expect to make it to the end on this first escape attempt. The whole idea of roguelike dungeon crawlers is that you keep trying and trying and trying, and every failed attempt, you get a little bit better. You get some resources that you can spend on upgrades to get a little bit better, which then means you can get a little bit farther. You can also get luckier with the boons. And then you keep trying and you potentially keep failing, and you get a little bit better and a little bit better until finally you get good enough to where you make it to the end. And then the real fun starts. But as for right now, I think what I'm going to do actually is pick Divine Dash. It's just really good. If you see something coming at you, you can just dash. It's already like instinctive to dash. So giving that a deflect mechanic makes it so you turn the opponent's, attacks against them, as it says. So that makes this really good. It's kind of intuitive.
Getting all the way where you are, goddess, but thank you.
Alright.
Hi there.
Also notice this glowing pot here. That's a trap, and you can use it to your advantage, but you also have to be careful of it. These are also spike traps right here. See, if you glide over them. Also notice I deflected those attacks back to those guys. That's what makes Divine Dash so good. When you get practice with it. Woo! See there, I wall smashed him. Anyway, like I was saying, when you get good practice with Divine Dash, it makes it very useful. Because you can just dash into projectiles like that, and it reflects it right back at them.
Bye now.
So this is something called Darkness, and this is one of the resources that's going to be used for our permanent upgrades that make us better, and therefore able to make it farther into the dungeon. You may also notice when you're attacking,
A centaur heart.
you can stun lock the enemies, basically, and make it so they can't attack you back. Now this is, as he said, a centaur heart, and it raises my maximum life total by 25. It's very good, but it only lasts until the end of the escape attempt. I started with 50. If I die, then I'm going to start the next one with 50 again. So it's just a temporary boost.
Lance.
See, you can kind of stun lock them. This this weapon, which is called the Stygian Blade, is actually a little like counterintuitive, or counterproductive, I guess I should say, because you can stun lock people using melee attacks, but since that third combo always knocks them back, it can sometimes make it a little difficult to chain your attacks together because you keep knocking them farther and farther away from you. Actually, if I can be honest with everybody, this weapon right here is maybe overall my least favorite. But it's what we start with, so here we go. And this, if you haven't noticed, the doors tell you what to expect at the end. This means this is the same symbol as where we started, and that first room had a boon from Athena, so that's what this room is going to have. Once I kill all the enemies, we're going to get another Athena boon. Oh, took my first hit. Dashing is very, very good in this game because you are effectively invincible while you do it. So you can dash straight through enemies once you get good enough.
Olympus calls.
And it also lets you, cover distance, obviously, so you can make a quick escape, or you can come in quick from afar to get some damage in, and then straight back out.
In the name of Hades.
So now we can get Divine Strike again, which is good, since I tend to attack more than anything. Failing Shot again, which I'm not going to pick. And an Epic, there are 6? Yeah. 6 different rarities, technically, of boons. You have your standard, you have rare, which comes in blue, you have epic, which is purple, and you have heroic, which is red. Then you've got 2 kind of subcategories called duo and legendary, which I'll talk about later. But every boon can be any of those 4 rarities I mentioned at the beginning. So like Holy Shield has its normal ability. After you take damage, it deals like, I want to say 30 damage to the foes around you. But the higher the rarity, the more damage it does in this case. Or like, for example, Divine Strike, right? If it was a rare Divine Strike, it would do like 50% damage or 52% damage, or something like that. Excuse me. So, the question is, what am I going to take? I tend to attack a lot, so that's a point for Divine Strike's favor, but this not only is an epic, which means it's harder to come by, but I definitely take damage sometimes, as you just saw. So this is not bad at all either, but I think the more deflection I have, the better. So since this only happens once every so often when I get hit, whereas this is going to be constantly going on every time I attack, I think I'm going to go with this.
Athena's power.
And now I have a choice.
Each exit has its own reward.
We'll learn what all these images and icons are, but this right here is the shop that you can sometimes get access to every escape attempt. Or this is a boon. I won't tell you who, I won't spoil it. And then there's sometimes a little skull underneath, which means it's a mini-boss room. Or sometimes it's a room filled with armored enemies. Armored enemies mean they have pretty much like 2 health bars, and as long as their armored health bar is still in effect, they cannot be staggered by the attacks. So armored enemies are not to be trifled with for sure. But since one, I don't have much gold down there in the bottom right corner, and boons are like the second most important thing to get on an escape attempt. You're trying to get as many of these as possible. The more you have, the better you are usually. We're gonna go here, despite the risk of it being a mini-boss room. Which it is.
They absorb my blow.
Yeah, see, as he said, they absorbed his blow. Which means that they're not getting staggered until you get rid of that yellow bar. Now that I've got rid of his yellow bar, he gets staggered. And these guys in particular like to throw bombs around. The good news is, as you noticed right there, I can deflect those bombs. This is one of the reasons why deflect is such a good mechanic, because it almost nullifies certain enemies. Every time one of them dies, they drop a bomb where they died, so you have to be careful of that and dash away the minute you kill one.
This one was bound to show up, I guess. In the name of Hades, Olympus, I accept this message.
You've got quite the fighting spirit in you there, I have to say. Most intriguing, and yet no surprise for someone born in hell itself. You come on out of there and tell me all about it. I'm a fellow student of death, you see.
So here we have Ares, the god of war. Not much to say about him. You're well informed about this particular god if you ever played the video game series God of War. His boons are all about one of two things. Well, three things, kinda. One, you've got blade rifts. So this one turns your cast into a blade rift, which think of like a Beyblade. It's just a big spinning wheel of blades that deals damage every like half a second for, oh, I don't know, 3 seconds, maybe not even. So this one deals 22 damage every hit. Then you also have Doom. Doom is a debuff that when it occurs, at first does nothing. But after about 1 to 2 seconds, it'll hit the enemy with a large chunk of damage. In this case, 140, and it triggers whenever I take damage. Then his third thing is just a strict increase in damage. So you got Battle Rage, which whenever you kill something, your next attack or special deals 150% extra damage. So, what do I want to do? Again, I don't cast much, so slicing shot's pretty much off the table, although I do like blade rifts. Battle Rage I don't like a whole lot because it's only the one attack, right? So, like, take that last battle, for example. I only had 2 enemies. So once I killed one, my next attack did a good chunk of damage, but then that's it. Whereas this one, every time I take damage, I deal 140, which is a large amount, by the way. If you've been noticing, every single one of my sword swings deals like less than 50 damage. So 140 is a pretty good chunk. So I'm actually going to go with this one, I think. It's just nice to have kind of in the background every time you take damage, it hits them back.
I will keep fighting.
Alright, some more armored foes here. Oop. There's some good traps. Alright, let's get rid of this guy. Ow. Yeah, see. That one trigger of Curse of Vengeance took like almost all of one of the enemy's health, and I didn't have to do anything. Sorry if you keep hearing like my microphone shift. I'm coming off of a throat infection, and so I'm still having to like clear my throat, sometimes cough.
Not a chance.
And I don't want to do that right into the microphone, so I move my microphone out of my face whenever I do that. So here we got numbskulls. These are your classic like swarm enemies. Don't do a whole lot of damage. They only take about 1 hit to kill, but they usually come in large numbers.
A chthonic key.
So a chthonic key is going to be used to unlock our upgrades and unlock other weapons. So in the early game, this is one of the best items you can get, but really quickly they become near useless. I mean, it is a huge drop-off.
Wonder where I can use this.
So now we got a choice. We can get extra health, which is like the third best thing you can go for, or you can get what's called a Palm of Power. It's a pomegranate, if you can't see in that picture, which each of our boons can also be leveled up individually. That's what the Palm of Power does. But getting maximum health increased is better than nearly everything. The only things I would pick over health are boons or a different kind of upgrade called dataless hammers, which hopefully we will see later. And then sometimes even I've been known to pick centaur hearts over boons if I have tons of boons going on and have still very little health. So, pretty easy pick right here. Just go with this. Taking a little bit of damage here because the armored foes. Something else to keep in mind about armored foes is that little word that says break appears when you get rid of their armor. And that also stuns them right at the gate. So, little thing to keep in mind sometimes. Also, the hit that breaks their armor does not then bleed over into their health. So, for example, let's say they've got, oh, I don't know, 20 armor left, and you deal an attack that does something massive, like 500 damage. Well, they still only take 20 damage. There is no runoff into their health. That doesn't come up strategically, but it is something to keep in mind. Oh boy, here we go. Tons of armored. Oop. Foes. Alright. Ah, I was stupid.
Should come in handy.
Alright, so now we got a Palm of Power, or what's
Can't heal myself, but I can fight.
called Charon's Obol, which is basically gold. That's what's in the bottom, that's the money in the bottom right corner. And that also resets to 0 after each escape attempt, so you can only spend it on your escape attempt. It doesn't do much. Anyway, point is, I almost never pick this. Like, this is kind of bottom of the barrel to me, because it resets. If it's my only option, I'll go for it, or if I'm trying to get somewhat specific, I'll go for it, but definitely go with this room for right now. And also, something I want to point out is what our main character, whose name is Zagreus, just mentioned, which is common amongst roguelike dungeon crawlers, which is health in the actual escape attempts are very scarce. That's what makes these so repeatable, I guess. And also what makes, in this game, the centaur hearts so important, because health is just so hard to come by.
They're armored. Next. A palm of power. The power of the gods.
So, I again get 3 random ones, and I can level them up, which does exactly what you think it is. It increases Divine Strike by 16%, Divine Dash by 16 raw, or Curse of Vengeance by a whole 80. That's a lot. But this only triggers, you know, so often, whereas this is constant. So I don't know. So since, let's say the sword deals about 25 damage to begin with, an extra 16%, let's think here, because an extra 40% of 25 would be extra 10. So then 56%, so that's 35. So 56% would then be, what's 25? Half of 25 is 12.5, so let's say 14-ish, 14 or 15, so that would make it 40, so we go up about 5 damage, whereas this goes up 80 damage. So I think I'm actually going to go with Curse of Vengeance, because an extra 5 damage every single one of my attacks versus 80 damage. What would that mean? If it's 5 extra damage, how many hits would I have to get in to equal 80? 16? So yeah, I think I go with this, because 16 is a lot.
They must have lots of these upon Olympus.
Alright, so here's the second time I've seen the store, which is an important point I need to mention. There are 4 regions in each escape attempt in Hades. Each one of those regions has 2 opportunities to get to the store. The second opportunity to get to the store is always the very last room before the boss. And same goes for whatever other option we have in addition to the second store. So, and on top of that, excuse me, it's always a enemy-free room right before the boss. So what that all boils down to is when you see the second store, you can either go in there, or you can pick the other room and know that there will be no enemies. You get a free, in this case, Athena boon. So since I'm not going to be spending 145 gold, that's not much, I'm going to go into this room. Also, you can push, it says up there in the top left, again, I'm on PlayStation pad button to see my boons. So let's go. See? Free boon.
Hear me on my authority.
So, we got Fighting Shot again, not picking it. We got Sure Footing, which resists damage from traps, which is good and bad. It's bad when you play this enough because you get good enough to avoid traps altogether, since they're stationary for the most part. But no matter how good you are, you're still going to get hit from time to time. So it's not zero. It's not nothing. But this, especially since I have 2 different ways to deflect things, is great. Makes it so that anytime I deflect somebody, they get exposed and they get 50% bonus backstab damage. So we're definitely going with that one. No question. And then anytime you see this, you can examine it for some backstory.
Beyond the present chamber lies the outermost perimeter of Tartarus, promising terrifying dangers far beyond the Underworld Prince's reckoning.
And I can reckon quite a bit.
And in this room might seem, this icon is unfamiliar because we have not experienced this before. I'll explain it in a second. But this is a boss. Our first one.
Well, this is awkward.
Halt, Zagreus. Not one step further.
So here we have Megara, the first of the Furies. Those that are a fan of the Disney's Hercules might know Megara as the love interest. Well, this is a completely different person. This is the real one, the one from Greek mythology.
Come on, Meg. Haven't we had more than enough of each other by now? Besides, don't you have someplace else to be?
Your father sent me. All in all, I'd rather be on your bad side than his. Now you can turn back, like a good little man, or I can send you home the painful way. What'll it be?
So who might your father be?
I'll have to go with the painful way.
A man after my own heart.
So Megara, she likes to dash around. She's got a whip that she uses to do this big AoE attack, and occasionally she will summon minions. When you see her crouch down like that, you know she's about to woohoo. And when you see her rear back, so when she crouches, she's about to dash. When she rears back, she's about to do the AoE, or when she floats in the air like that, excuse me.
No effect.
And most bosses have phases. In this case, when she becomes impervious for a split second, that means she's about to enter the next phase. I'm gonna die. Oh, she can also do... yep, there you go. She can also shoot a bunch of little laser balls. But like I said, it is very, very difficult to make it on the very first attempt.
Damn it. I'm home.
So, every time we die,
Yes,
we make
carry
it
on,
back...
everyone, don't mind me.
Excuse me. We make it back to the central hub, the House of Hades. Hades, if you do not know, is the lord of the underworld in Greek mythology. So, every time we come back to this hub, which is every time we die, or every time we succeed, we're gonna walk around, we're gonna talk to some people, we're gonna upgrade ourselves, and we're gonna maybe even get better weapons. A bunch of stuff goes on in the House of Hades to hopefully make our next escape attempt a little bit easier. But until then,